you were an Indiana Fever fan, if you're a Caitlin Clark fan, it was a brutal game to sit through. No Caitlin Clark, no Sophie Cunningham, no Chloe Bibby.
Fans of the Indiana Fever just seen one of the worst games of the season. It really showed when Caitlin Clark wasn't on the floor, don't you think? In addition to defeating the Fever, the Atlanta Dream revealed every single flaw in this squad. Aaliyah Boston had trouble. Natasha Howard disappeared entirely. To be honest, fans began demanding Clark's return right away. Is it reasonable to blame them? Do you really think this Fever squad can make the playoffs without Caitlin Clark? Let's dissect this, so please share your ideas in the comments section below. The Indiana Fever were already handicapped going into this playoff match. Furthermore, I'm not referring to some arcane sports jargon here. Caitlin Clark, no. That's the headline, exactly. There is absolutely nothing else that you need to say. You are essentially starting the game 10 points behind when the face of your entire franchise is sidelined. That is simply the harsh truth of the situation.
Said it before, it's my understanding that Natasha Howard was signed to be the fourth big star on this team. And if Caitlin Clark is not playing, well, it seems to me like Natasha Howard should move up and it becomes a big three, right? The only problem is only one of your now intact big three decided to show up, and it was Kelsey.
Without Clark, the so-called big three of the Fever were going to be Natasha Howard, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. Here's the issue, though. Only one of those three players truly appeared to understand that it was a playoff game. It was absolutely not Howard, and it most definitely wasn't Boston, spoiler alert. While the rest appeared to have forgotten that the season hadn't ended last week, Kelsey Mitchell was essentially carrying the squad on her back. In all honesty, Kelsey Mitchell gave it her all when she went out there. She shot 9 of 18 from the field and scored 27 points in just 33 minutes. To be honest, she appeared to be the only Fever player with a pulse and an idea as to what was happening. Let's just say that the others are undoubtedly not helped by their box score. Aaliyah just last year, Boston, the Golden Kid, was the top pick. Alongside Clark, this guy is meant to be the cornerstone of the entire franchise. She vanished out of sight. From the field, we're talking 3 out of 9. 8 points for poultry. Additionally, please don't be fooled by those 8 points. As the fourth quarter progressed, she had just 4 points. Trash the stat sheet appears a bit less awful after time awarded her a few extra buckets, but anyone who watched the game can see the indisputable reality. When the Fever most desperately needed her, she was a ghost. Afterward, there is Natasha Howard. Do you wish to discuss invisible? She made a mistake. For those who are keeping score, that is a pitiful 28%, obtaining a pitiful 5 points. This is the same Natasha Howard that was named to an All-WNBA squad, a 3-time WNBA champion, and a 2-time All-Star. And only the previous season, Natasha Howard averaged more than 17 points each game. But in a playoff match without Clark, she makes the decision, you know what? 7 shots will suffice. I'm doing fine. Please pardon me. 7 shots? Is that something you contributed? It would be like to bringing 1 bag of chips to a potluck and pretending to have prepared a 5-course dinner. This is the main issue. Boston and Howard are meant to take center stage when Clark isn't playing, demanding the ball, taking charge of the attack, and ultimately demonstrating that they are more than just passengers on Caitlin's train are their roles. Rather, they simply waved goodbye while standing at the station. Since you could see many empty seats throughout Gainbridge Fieldhouse, let's now discuss them. Whether they reported it as a sellout or not is irrelevant to me. Chairs that are empty don't lie. White seats were arranged in rows everywhere. Indeed, when spectators moved down from the inexpensive seats, some of them did fill up later. However, the message was very obvious. Fans aren't exactly buzzing through the gates in Caitlin Clark's absence. Additionally, this goes beyond ticket sales. It has to do with energy. The structure was level. The crowd has changed. Furthermore, You cannot claim that the gamers are unaffected. Kelsey Mitchell is having a great time, and it appears that half of the audience would prefer to watch Netflix at home. There are always Fever fans for Clark. It's an entirely other world without her. Let's examine the game's actual flow. The Fever fell behind 80-68. It wasn't even that close, to be honest. From the beginning, the Dream had complete control of the game. When it came to the last possession, it wasn't a close call. You could already tell that this was not going to go well by halftime. The Fever's offense was utterly lost. They were slow, and they were out of sync. The most absurd aspect of it is that this is a very knowledgeable team. Natasha Howard has already won several titles. Aaliyah Boston has now worked for a year. She is no longer a wide-eyed novice. This type of no-show has no justification whatsoever. The thing is this: other players must step up when your star is absent. It's only a matter of sports. However, Boston and Howard backed down from the attention rather than rising to the occasion. They appear shy. Rather than being leaders, they appear to be role players. And believe me when I say that won't work in the playoffs.
I'm still mad. This was a winnable game for the Indiana Fever in round one. Game one versus the Atlanta Dream. We had the opportunity to steal one. We came out with the right energy, the right focus. The second quarter, they made adjustments. They upped their intensity, slowed down the game, upped their physicality, and we just didn't make any adjustments. Yes, the referees were clowns. Yes, Aaliyah Boston was a no-show. Yes, Natasha Howard looked like a fossil out there on the floor who should not be in the league because she's washed. Yes, all of that is true. Our head coach, Stephanie White, is a bonehead. All of that is true. And with that being said, we had an opportunity to win. And now we have Stephanie White at the podium with no idea on what to do.
Assist us in winning a match. However, head coach Stephanie White also didn't exactly bash herself in the spotlight. See, I understand. She is coping with her wounds. However, some of these choices and rotations were dubious at best, don't they? How do Howard and Boston get together for only 16 attempts at shots? That's crazy. With Clark out, these two should be getting at least 12 to 15 shots each. Rather, Ariel Powers has 4 shots, Shop Petty has 2, and Odyssey Sims has 7. With all due respect, you don't want those players to lead your offense come postseason. White's brief encounter with the referees followed. Indeed, she received a technical foul, and some people even pretended that it was a show of leadership. I apologize, but games are not won by technicals. Boston and Howard don't suddenly remember how to play basketball after a technical. It came too late and too little. It served only as a distraction. Let's just finish this up now. Speaking of the referees, they were terrible. And against both teams, not just the Fever. There were phantom fouls, missed calls, and inconsistent play everywhere. This game was a prime illustration of the WNBA's notoriously bad officiating, which is a problem in professional sports. Here's the worst part, though. Bad play is not excused by poor officiating. The referees did not cause the Fever to lose. 2/3 of their supposed stars failed to show up to play, which is why they lost. Because Fever fans are intelligent, let's take a moment to return to the fans. They see the events. They are aware that Caitlin Clark is the lifeblood of this team. Furthermore, they are quite justified in calling for Clark's return after witnessing Boston and Howard falter in this match. Without her, the team is uninspired, lifeless, and, to be honest, unwatchable. To watch an 8-point Boston and a 5-point Howard, fans aren't spending a lot of money. They are not afraid to express their desire for Caitlin Clark. To be honest, that begs a more important question. How much tolerance do Fever supporters actually have for Howard and Boston? Although Boston is young, she is meant to be a key component. These kinds of nights don't exactly give you confidence, do they? She's also a veteran, Howard. She ought to be more aware. She ought to insist on the ball. When Clark isn't around, she ought to take over. Rather, she acted as if she were a role player lurking in the background. And that is unacceptable, my friends. Let's not even discuss the deficiency in 3-point shooting. In 2025, Boston, Howard, and Lexi Hull combined for 8 of 29 points and 1 3-pointer, as well as professional basketball. Do you mean me? Not only is that awful, it's downright embarrassing. Thus, it is true that Fever supporters were irate and upset, and they had every right to. It's cruel to watch your squad suffer bullying at the hands of the Dream as your supposed stars vanish. And Clark's absence just served to highlight it. This team would be simply another WNBA team that people forget without her. Alongside her, there must, and that's where the pressure really lies, because Clark is the franchise's lifeblood, not just a player. Fans swarm the arena because of her. She is the reason why the Fever is ever mentioned in relation to sports in general. They would be completely meaningless without her. Additionally, fans won't sit idly by while Howard and Boston act like celebrities. They will make a strong demand for Clark's return. Let's take a moment to consider how drastically things have gotten out of control since she left. Aaliyah Boston was expected to be the best interior player, a top choice, and the type of player who commands the glass, dominates the paint, and gets those easy buckets. Rather, it appears like she is doing laboratory experiments, as she throws up 3 out of 9. Even though you are the franchise's star player, you only get 9 shots in a game without your best player. That is unethical. It's not unlucky. It is a poor basketball IQ. And let's not even talk about Natasha Howard. There are championship rings on this woman. She has attended an all-star game. She has demonstrated her ability to score highly. She essentially clocked in and begged to leave early, which went against her dream. 5 points is a 2 of 7 ratio. You only have it when your reputed superstar guard isn't there. You provide that.